Brock Lesnar's back. Now, before we talk about Brock Lesnar and the controversy about his return, I want to ask you about the story. And Lord, I'm not trying to pile on and be negative here, but when it first happened back at Elimination Chamber, we heard all the comparisons. Oh, this is the biggest heel turn since Hulk Hogan turned heel. Oh, this is the most excellent. This is the biggest angle in the history of wrestling. Oh, it went nowhere. On Friday night, John Cena came out and said, just 2 nights before his main event on pay per view at SummerSlam, my bad. Pretend nothing that happened in the last 6 months happened. I love you guys. I fell for something from somebody else, but the champ is here, and I'm John Cena, and I'm your hero. And here we go. So I love the entrance. We start with the black and just white letters, John Cena, like he's been doing the heel work, and then all of a sudden it kicks in, and now we get the familiar music and graphics, and here he comes. And I thought the main event was terrific. I was critical of the WrestleMania main event. I told you that I felt like John had lost a step. You were a little bit offended when I said that at the time, I think. But this was a WrestleMania main event. I would argue that this match was better than what we saw at WrestleMania, and I think everyone would agree with that. I even would say I enjoyed SummerSlam because of those two big angles that closed both shows better than I did WrestleMania. So this checked every box for me. I heard Brian Alvarez say this was probably John Cena's best match in over a decade. I don't think anyone can argue with that. An incredible performance with Cody. But then the big swerve at the end that nobody saw coming. Just a couple of weeks after we heard Daniel Cormier slip up and say, oh, Brock Lesnar is on the banned list by TKO. And here he comes. People melted down. We'll talk about Brock in just a moment, but what did you think of the execution and maybe the about face of the Cena heel turn? And I know you got to see the main event. What did you think of John Cena and Cody Rhodes closing out SummerSlam?
Mixed emotions. I sat and watched that match on a big screen at a bar, Hogan's Hangout, and it was odd to me because it's a huge screen. On one screen, I'm watching the main event. On another screen, right next to it, equally large screen, same size, I'm watching. I don't know, it was Hulk Hogan and somebody might have been Andre. I don't know. And I was really paying closer attention to the pace of both of those matches, the way the match was laid out in the ring, the way the performance was executed in the ring, however you want to say it. And it was a little distracting because I was constantly going back and forth. I guess I didn't feel as strongly about it as you do. I'm not going to critique it, but it didn't work for me until the end. And once the end hit, I was all in. And I can't even explain why. I can't tell you why it just didn't really register with me until the end. There was something about it to me that felt awkward. And maybe it's the whole heel, babyface, heel, back and forth. The fact that I never really bought into the heel turn as strongly as I wished I would have, to be fair about it, to be honest about it. But once the finish came, once Brock made his appearance, then it kind of all made sense to me, and it was a lot easier for me to enjoy. But only because of the swerve at the end.
I really enjoyed the match itself. I think I had realistic expectations based on the WrestleMania performance and seeing John on Unreal. I know you haven't had a chance to see that yet, but John, half joking but half serious, said so he was taking photos and he did the "you can't see me" thing, and he said, "You know, you're getting old when even this hurts your SI joint."
That's awesome.
When I saw that, I thought, man, Lord bless him for continuing to put his body on the line. And I know that the Brock Lesnar return is where we're going next. And there's a lot of discussion about that because immediately afterwards, conveniently, WWE canceled their presser format, which, by the way, they took some criticism for online, but I often wondered, does any good ever come from this? I know it's a sponsorable thing for them and they can sell sponsorships, but they can do that for the post show too. But why would you take away the spotlight and the headline of whatever you just put on with your major event, which otherwise would be the headline, and instead it can become a gotcha moment for someone else's website, why would you not want the lasting impression, the final word on your event, to be a carefully crafted message from you? You can't go set records and then go to a firing squad. And that's what it felt like it was going to be. So they made the audible. They made the decision. And we know why now for certain on this event. Well, they didn't want to deal with the Brock Lesnar stuff. Well, Triple H almost felt like he was saying, not it, to me in the post show when he said something along the lines of, this is John Cena's wish list. It's him writing the last chapter of his book. And I think people saw a conversation with us where he said we'd have to screw it up pretty badly to ruin his career. But it's not about that for me. It's about John being able to go out the way he wants to go out, to write his chapter. I know what that's like as a performer. I know what that's like for everybody to feel that. And I think for John to be able to do what he wants to do. One of the very first things I said to him is, who do you want and how? And we're working through that. So that almost feels like he's saying, hey guys, this is who John Cena wanted. Now John comes out the next day and says, I've been saying the same thing for 25 years. They deal them, I play them. I'm just really excited. We got like 12 of these things left. I think SummerSlam was an indication from the audience where everybody kind of knows what that we're closing our book. And just because I close my book in December, that doesn't mean WWE closes its books. They got to continue their programming going forward. So they're just going to try to make the most exciting shows for the fans. A dozen of them I got left. They deal them, I play them. So no matter whose idea it was or how it happened, Dave Meltzer has revealed that 3 or 4 weeks ago, WWE's legal department essentially cleared the return of Brock Lesnar. Now, smarter people than I would say, well, that means they think they're going to arbitration and none of this will affect Brock Lesnar. As a reminder, Brock has not been sued. He's not been charged. There's no criminal charges involved, but his name is mentioned in a lawsuit against WWE and against Vince McMahon. So a lot of people just assumed nothing's going to happen until that lawsuit is complete. Instead, Brock Lesnar's back. A, were you surprised he's back? And B, were you surprised with the online response? Some positive, but a lot of negative about Brock Lesnar being back.
I'll tackle the last question first. I'm never surprised anymore over the dreck that I see on social media and the negativity and people who so desperately want to appear to be knowledgeable and have inside information. Nothing surprises me anymore. It's especially the internet wrestling community it's a cesspool. So I expect the negativity. You have to. Was I surprised? Absolutely. More than anything, because Brock doesn't need this. I mean, when a guy like Brock Lesnar, I don't know what Brock Lesnar's worth, but it's got to be a ton. And he's happy on his farm. He likes to hunt. He likes to fish. He loves the outdoors. He loves to be on his tractor, planting crops, harvesting crops. And to leave that, to come back to, even in the best of situations, a grind. It is a grind. When you absolutely don't need it, I don't want to suggest that Brock doesn't love the business. People like to throw that term out a lot. I'm not suggesting he doesn't have a warm place in his heart for the business, but he doesn't need it. Some people need the business. Some people need the connection to the crowd. Some people only feel valuable if they're getting a reaction from the crowd, whether it's in an arena or sitting in a bar. Brock's not that guy. Brock is the opposite of that guy with a massive amount of money. So that's the part that surprised me. Just getting on a plane and flying to get to wherever you have to get when you don't really need the money and you don't really need the attention. That's the part that surprised me.
The thing is, if you followed TKO, which is the parent company for WWE, you've seen how they allowed the UFC to be managed. UFC has not been without controversy, whether it's with some of their headline stars like John Jones and his legal woes, or Conor McGregor and his legal woes. Both of those guys still, doing their thing with UFC for years and years, despite all of those situations. And there was even a very public and ugly situation with Dana White years ago. And nothing really ever happened. So I don't know that this should necessarily be a shock to wrestling fans, because this is a company that is a for-profit business. And if someone is legally able to perform and they can add to the bottom line, it does feel like the TKO North Star is delivering shareholder value. And I know that, Paul Heyman earlier this week was on Ariel Helwani's show, and he basically said something like, there's always going to be critics of anything that we do, and very few people ever make it to the top in life without making mistakes or having skeletons in their closet. Obviously, the decision was made. It's time to bring back Brock Lesnar. Whatever that decision is based on, I respect it. If there are critics of it, get over it. He's here, and he's going to be here, and you ain't going to be able to cancel him. And I'm happy to have him back because the audience is happy to have him back. And if we brought him back and the audience rebelled against it, I wouldn't be happy to have him back. Now, when this first happened, Dave Meltzer suggested that this was almost like a stress test. Hey, if they put him out here and it's met with resounding boos, they can get their way out of it. But he came back, got a big shock pop. Now, we have yet to see him after that surprise return. And you and I have talked about this for years, Eric. Whether you're a good guy or a bad guy, if you're a big star and you return, you're going to get a hero's welcome on your return. Now, that's what happened. I think the real test, I would argue, is when he starts making regular appearances on TV. But even then, will they say, oh, that's because he's a heel? This is the desired effect. Either way, Brock Lesnar is back. And a lot of people are wondering, well, if this is what John Cena wanted, does John Cena want Vince McMahon back? And a lot of people are now curious, will Vince McMahon be at John Cena's last match, or could we see him return to some sort of on-camera? And Meltzer even freestyled earlier in the week on Wrestling Observer Radio that perhaps if this Lesnar thing goes well and the lawsuit gets sunset, is there a universe where Vince McMahon is back in WWE? Could you see that happening, Eric?
I've said this 100 times, I think, in the last couple of years. Nothing ever surprises me when it comes to Vince McMahon.
Yeah.
And there is no such word as impossible when it comes to Vince McMahon. So is it possible? Of course it's possible. Is it likely? That's a stretch to me. I don't know. I don't know, man, but I wouldn't bet against it. I'd be surprised in the sense that it's not necessary. It's not like Vince McMahon is going to draw money for WWE. So from that perspective, I don't see it. But he is Vince McMahon. He has built WWE. To erase him from WWE history because of this civil lawsuit, to me, makes no sense. So maybe the answer probably is somewhere in between. Do I see him coming back? Could I see him on camera again in recognition for what he's done and what he's accomplished in building the WWE that we've known today? Yes, I could see that happening. I just don't think we'd see him on a regular basis.